But Amo, you were going to be an instructor on 29. Obviously, it's the OCU. Can you talk us through some of your flying training? And obviously, I want to hear about that first flight in the Typhoon and how it compared to the
Yeah.
Raptor as well.
Well, I'll tell you what. In the F-22 especially, we do not like flying as a community and as tactically executing the jet. We don't like flying the jet at a very, very low altitude. So the lowest I ever flew the Raptor ever was 500 feet AGL, and this was over in Alaska. And this was our low altitude checkout flight. Otherwise, we almost never flew the jet below 1,000 feet
Wow.
in our training sorties. And so now fast forward to when I'm in my first flight in the Typhoon, they're pretty much like, yep, you're cleared to go low level, 250 feet AGL. And I've never, ever flown a fast jet, even below 500 feet. And so I'm like, are you kidding me? You're going to let me go and fly this jet at half the altitude that I've flown before? They're like, yeah, you did it in the simulator just fine. You're cleared. Yep. Don't crash. Have fun. See ya. So that was great. And then I was like, okay, yeah, and who's chasing me? Who's my instructor? They're like, no, mate, you're solo. You're going by yourself. I was like, wait, there's no instructor chasing me in another Typhoon, really? And so it was a true solo experience. I just basically had to show the duty authorizer my flight plan. Obviously, I had an instructor that was grading me, who was going to watch my tapes and who was there during my mission planning process, making sure I was doing all that correctly. But otherwise, once you kit up and you sign out, you're on your own, and that was pretty fun to just be able to get handed the keys to the jet, and they basically trusted you to do the right thing. So, yep, I went low level. Now, sadly, at that time, the weather in the Lake District was not suitable for flying low level, so I had to do low level over the Norwich area, which,
Right.
if
Yeah.
anyone knows their UK geography, the change in elevation in that entire area is probably maybe 1 foot, between Peterborough and Norwich. It is just flat. But still, I was flying 250 feet above the ground at 400 knots, and it was still a rush and a thrill to get to do that. So that was a stark contrast from what I had done in the Raptor, where the Raptor is very, very comfortable up at 30 and 40,000 feet. And that's kind of where we were, whereas here in the
Yeah.
Typhoon, we're raging around at 250 feet. So that was a cool experience.
And what was your first flight performance takeoff? Or did you ever get to do them?
I wish. So, did not get to do a performance takeoff in my first OCU sortie, but about two or three sorties in, I forget which one, that was one of the syllabus items that you had to accomplish, and that was amazing. Now, in the Raptor, you can do a performance takeoff, but it's different from the Typhoon in that you get airborne and you do use reheat in this case. So you get airborne, you stay low over the runway, you pull up the gear, and you accelerate, to 400 plus knots, and then you do a pretty sharp 6-7G pull to 60, 70 degrees nose high, and you zoom up into the sky from there. Whereas in Typhoon, as you're probably aware, seeing the videos or seeing it in person, basically you throw in reheat and about 110, 120 knots in that regime, you start pulling back on the stick and you just keep on pulling. And for any fixed wing pilot, that is a very, very unnatural thing to do. You're always taught that upon rotation, make sure you manage that pitch angle very carefully so that you don't get into a stall, because you are low altitude, low airspeed. But in the Typhoon is so powerful in reheat, and when you're doing that performance takeoff, you just keep pulling back on the stick. And this was very unnatural the first time around, but you just got to trust your training, trust that what you did in the sim was correct. And so you're just keep on pulling and pulling and pulling until you're 60 to 70 degrees nose high. You bring up the gear and the jet just keeps on going up, and you look out the side of the jet and that's probably the closest I'll get to a SpaceX kind of experience
Mm.
of blasting off in a rocket. But you just look out the side of the jet and you see the Earth just falling away. It's incredible, man.